Welcome back, everyone. Robert Ferringo again with Doc Sports with the next team on my 2023 NFL Power Rankings Countdown. Today we are at number 16, the New Orleans Saints. I want to apologize to all of the viewers out there. We couldn't get a guess, so you will have to settle for Rafael Esparza, one of the top handicappers at Doc Sports. Be sure to go to docsports.com and take advantage of that $60 link that's down in the descriptions. That $60, same as cash, to be used for any handicapper and any package in any sport on our site. Also, if you are enjoying these videos, be sure to like and subscribe. You will get daily free play videos from other Doc Sports handicappers like Mr. Esparza. Rafael, great to have you, man. How you doing?
Pretty good. How about yourself?
I am doing fantastically well. We are one day closer to football, and I couldn't be more excited. Now, you are in New Orleans. We're talking about the Saints today. Number 16, you are in New Orleans. First off, what's just kind of the vibe down there? What's the scuttlebutt? Is everyone excited about this season? Is it just like, we're still kind of irrelevant? What's the vibe around the Saints down there in New Orleans?
Well, we've had this discussion. The Saints are probably one of the biggest Super Bowl or bust cities that I've ever witnessed. I always said Green Bay was. Probably not now that they don't have a quarterback. Growing up with Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers, it seemed like every year it was Green Bay Packers, Super Bowl or bust. And I never thought I would see another city like that until I actually placed my foot in New Orleans, and it's Super Bowl or bust every year. Every preview show you see in the local news, the road to the Super Bowl, or the Super Bowl starts here, the Super Bowl starts now. And last time I checked, they only have one. So but here, I mean, it seems like with spring practices, every time I refresh my computer, an offensive lineman goes down. So it's already doom and gloom right now already, and it's only August, early of August, and injury bug has bitten the Saints, which I thought was probably their weakest spot of their team, was the O-line.
Yeah, I never stood that. This is a long-held theory of mine that championships are a little bit overrated. It's great to win the Super Bowl, and that's awesome and all, but you can still have a successful season, have a great year without winning the Super Bowl. And I would think that the Saints, a team that I had as the biggest underachievers in the NFL last year, that after dealing with that, hey, winning the division, which they're favored to do, going to the playoffs, maybe winning a playoff game, having that excitement over the next 5 months, that would be enough. First, with that, do you think the Saints were one of the biggest underachievers in the NFC last year?
They've been the biggest underachievers for the past every year after they won the Super Bowl. How many times were they favorites to win a Super Bowl after they won their first one? How many times were they double-digit favorites on total season wins? How many times were they the clear front winner or favorite in the division and in the NFC? So I don't want to just say last year. I just year after year seems like they're always, I hate to use the word underachieving, but they've always had big numbers on total season wins to win the division, really good numbers to win the NFC, and then either it's an injury or something, or just bad coaching, or a quarterback that couldn't throw more than 10 yards finally retires when he was probably should have retired a year earlier. I just think a lot of stuff this year. I mean, let's face it, we can both agree this division is probably one of the worst divisions in the NFL. So if they don't win it, it's going to be a disappointing season again.
Well, it was kind of understandable to have Super Bowl aspirations when you have Sean Payton and Drew Brees. Now they are dealing with Dennis Allen and Derek Carr. Let's take first things first. Dennis Allen, he's 15-38 as a head coach in his career. Now, he never should have gotten the job with the Raiders, and the Raiders are a train wreck. So I feel like a lot of people almost want to give him a pass on what happened in his first head coaching stint. But last year wasn't pretty. And now this year, they still have some talent on this roster. I'm not even setting Super Bowl expectations. I'm just talking, can he beat his season win total number? Can they make it to the playoffs? Can they win the division, which they're favored to do? What are your thoughts on Dennis Allen? Is he the right guy to get this team going again? Or is he another one of those Peter Principle coordinators where they're really, really good as a coordinator and should never be a head coach?
really, really good as a coordinator, should not be a head coach. And I hope he's renting, not buying right now. Because I have a feeling if they don't make the playoffs or go far in the playoffs or just a disappointing season, I think they're going to erase everything that had Sean Payton's name touching around it, and they're just going to have to start from scratch. And that means DA, the offensive line, or offensive coordinator, McCarthy. I can't think of his name off the top of my head. The offensive coordinator.
Carmichael.
Uh, yeah, Carmichael. I think them two would be on the biggest hot seats, and especially Carmichael, which I didn't think he should have kept his job. I thought the way the offense ran last year was horrendous. I thought his play calling was bad last year. I think most of the times they started off so slow, and in the second half they played really well, but they just couldn't get 4 quarters of good offensive football last year. So I think if they have a struggling season, I think they're going to cut the ties with everything that had the word Peyton next to it and start from scratch.
So Pete Carmichael does have a great resume as an offensive coordinator, but a lot of that was with Drew Brees, right? His 2 offenses without Brees were number 28 and number 19 over the last 2 years in total offense. How much of that do you attribute to maybe Carmichael was just kind of riding Peyton and Brees' coattails, but also how much do you attribute that to just the absolutely pathetic quarterback play that they've gotten the last 2 years? Jameis Winston's a huge loser. Andy Dalton is a dud, and they kind of stuck with those 2 guys each of the last 2 seasons. So how much of it was just terrible play from the quarterback position, and how much of it do you think falls on Carmichael's shoulders?
It does fall on Carmichael, but it also falls up from up above. They've been in horrible status when it comes to trying to sign free agents because their payroll has just been awful for the last, I think, 3 to 4 years. So that has a lot to do with they couldn't go out there and try to get an arm because they couldn't afford anybody because they're paying guys, I thought, some bad contracts. I agree that quarterback play was horrendous, but they had some bad injuries last year too. Michael Thomas. I mean, he hasn't played in 3 years seems like.
Surprise, he was hurt.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so I think that had to do with a lot of it with just some injuries. I mean, Olave was probably the only clear cut guy last year that was doing anything to sign a paycheck and look and feel happy about cashing it. Everyone else should probably felt guilty cashing their paycheck. So it's going to be very interesting on their offense this year. But another thing, this team is getting older year after year after year. We're bringing out all these names that, they were good when Peyton was here, but Peyton hasn't been here for a while. So that means they're older since Peyton hasn't been here. So I think a lot of it has to do with age. We all know that NFL is a young kids game now.
Okay, so I'm with you 100% that I feel like this team was ready to fall off the precipice and into a full-blown top-to-bottom rebuild until they got Derek Carr. Okay,
Here we go.
I think that going into the season, here we go. All right, look, Derek Carr. Well, before I give any of my thoughts, what do you think? What do you think about that? You don't think that he has resuscitated this team at least to the point where he can keep them competitive this year?
You got to show me something. I know he got a nice contract, but I'm sorry. Every statistic you see, he's not even top 10 quarterback in the league. I don't even have him as top 15 quarterback in the league. So now you got a brand new jersey. You're going to show me something. You're going to prove me something. You have to prove me something. I'm not just going to say, just because you have a new jersey and your last name is Carr and you have a Thomas coming back and all that you're going to put up some big numbers and you're going to boost her up there. Last time I checked, he has not been that good of a quarterback. I mean, he was not really that good in I should say, Las Vegas last year. He had to prove me something. Right now, I'm on that teeter-totter, but I'm leaning more like, really? We got Carr?
See, I couldn't disagree with you more. I think he is a top 10, top 12 quarterback. He's
Top
right
10?
there in that Kirk Cousins. He's right there in that Kirk Cousins. Yeah,
Kirk Cousins
absolutely. He's right there in that second tier. He's not Josh Allen. He's not Joe Burrow. He's not Patrick Mahomes. He's not in that top tier, but second tier guys, Derek Carr, absolutely. I don't think that people realize or give enough, not credit, but what a disaster the Raiders franchise is. What a terrible organization, top to bottom, that is. You look at what he dealt with his head coaches, with John Gruden, then they bring in Josh McDaniels, the losers that they had before that. Mike Mayock basically wasted 3 drafts for them with awful draft picks. And despite that, he was still able to take the Raiders to the playoffs. He was still able to keep them relatively competitive. And I just believe my eyes when I watch the guy play quarterback. He makes big throws. He is a good leader. He is tough in the pocket. Like, I think the fact that he got away from Vegas and got away from that Raiders organization. Look, I'm not predicting 14 wins and magic out of him, but if New Orleans doesn't get to where they need to go this year, it is absolutely not going to be because of Derek Carr.
No, I don't think it's going to be because of him. I just the offensive line. I think he's going to be pressured a lot with Kamara probably being gone. I'm hearing 4 games, anywhere between 3-4 games. Him visiting the head honcho the other day was a good thing for him. I think without that, he was probably going to get 6 games, but maybe taking the knee in the office and say, hey, I am wrong, blah, blah, blah. I bet you that probably shaved 1 or 2 games off his suspension, but he's still going to be missing. We don't know about Michael Thomas. So, yeah, it's not going to be all on his fault. That's why I don't think if they have a bad season, I don't think here in New Orleans everyone's going to pinpoint, oh, it's all because of Carr. It's all because of Carr. I have a feeling they're just going to pinpoint we need to start fresh and get the Champagne era out of us and get a new head coach, new offensive, and start building maybe around Carr and instead of just plugging him in with guys that haven't done anything.
Yeah, a lot of ifs on the offensive side of the ball. I completely agree with you. If the offensive line stays healthy, I think it'll be a top 10, top 15 offensive line. Good enough, okay? Assuming good health. Kamara will be back. Let's assume if they get 13 games out of him. If they get, let's say, 12 games out of Michael Thomas. I mean, anything you get from that guy.
12 games.
Where would you set the over-under on the games that he plays this year? I'd put it at like 7.5 and probably still take the under.
I agree.
But if Michael Thomas can give him something, if Kamara comes back and stays healthy, Chris Olave's still there, if they still got Taysom Hill, they still have some weapons on the offensive side of the ball. I don't think that's where their problems are going to be. Defensively, they had a top 5 defense last year. I don't think people realize how good that defense was, getting absolutely no help from the offense. Do you think that on that side, Dennis Allen's side of the ball, that they can maintain, maybe not be a top 5 defense again this year, but can they stay in the top 10?
I've always said that if the Saints are going to do anything to win a division, to win a playoff game, to make the playoffs, it's because of the D. It has nothing to do with the offensive side. I agree. The only thing that scares me, again, all those good guys they have on defense are getting older. I mean, so that's Cam Jordan is getting older. A lot of these guys that have been around and played well. I mean, they all played well last year, but again, that was last year. Add +1 to another year, that means you're getting older. So that thing scares me that the defense, who's been their bread and butter all season long, even when they won the Super Bowl, everyone wants to give it to Drew Brees and all that, but that defense that year and year after year has been the big reason why the Saints have been who they are and coming in winning divisions and stuff like that. I agree. Their defense will carry them again this year, but I'm scared that their defense is getting older and older and older.
So they have a new defensive coordinator this year with Joe Woods. Do you have any insight into what led up to them going with Woods? Last year they had co-defensive coordinators with Chris Richard and Ryan Nielsen. Why did they make the change?
I just think there was just too many heads in the microphone calling D's and at practice and in meetings. And you just like the Patriots had 2 offensive coordinators last year too. I mean, that just doesn't fly. I mean, I just think they just needed one voice, one head voice, and that was it. And I'm hearing that DA is not even in a lot of the defensive meetings, and he was in a lot of the defensive meetings last year. So now you probably have 3 voices in meetings and doing stuff. So I just think they went with just one and let's just go.
All right, they're going younger and cheaper on the defensive line. They got rid of Marcus Davenport and 3 of their top 6 defensive linemen. So they're younger and cheaper up there. I still think that they're really solid in the middle with their linebackers, and I still think that their secondary has a chance to be elite with Honey Badger, Marcus May, Marshawn Lattimore. If they can get anything out of John Abram, who was a high pick for the Raiders, big hitter, kamikaze type of player, wasn't able to stay healthy. Again, like Derek Carr, maybe getting out of Las Vegas and getting away from the Raiders can get something. I still think they can be solid on that side of the ball. Agree or disagree?
I agree. But for me, Honey Badger, he had a really good second half, but in the first half, he looked old and slow. So again, we're adding another year to him. I'm not a big fan of Honey Badger. I think he's going to have he's going to show his age. But everyone else, I like the young guys ahead. I know they went young and cheap, but what I'm hearing, a lot of these young guys are proving their names to put that jersey on to start on the D side. So I'm excited to see what those young guys can do.
Okay, so I have them ranked 16th, and just in talking to you and getting the vibe straight from New Orleans, doesn't sound like there's a ton of positivity coming there. However, what would you say if I told you that New Orleans had one of the worst offensive yards per point last year, 17.2? That's in a regression range. They were number 31 in football in turnover differential. They had terrible injury luck, which we kind of talked on. They were almost 2 wins under their Pythagorean wins expectation, meaning they should have been 2 games better than what their record was. And like them or not, Derek Carr is a significant upgrade over the 2 idiots that they tried out last year. So considering all of those factors, would you buy in that New Orleans could be a team primed for a bounce back, and maybe this team is actually a little bit undervalued going into the season?
Maybe a week ago, I would have said yes. But again, my biggest question mark on them was their O-line, and they're dropping like flies the last 3 days in practice. So that scares me, just because I think that's going to pressure Carr, and that's he does. I think he doesn't work well under pressure when he's being forced out of the pocket and running for his life. I think that's what scares me. I got to see. Their first game against the Titans is going to be a big eye opener for myself. Maybe not for everyone else. I want to see how they go on that, because they travel after that to go to Carolina and face a rookie quarterback. But against Tennessee is going to, for me, an eye opener. Because for me, when I watch the Saints, you know what I think of? I think of Baker Mayfield beat them last year. I think he only completed 1 pass. So I'm still looking at the Saints thinking Baker Mayfield beat him with, I think, 1 completed pass. So right now, that week 1 against Tennessee, which I know a lot of Tennessee money came in early and continues to flood in, where most books I talk to are begging for Saints money. And I think a lot of it has to do with the injuries, and some bettors don't know if Kamara is going to be playing that game or not. But they're begging for Saints money, and I just think Tennessee money is going to go in. That game's going to be a big eye opener for myself.
All right, 2-part question to finish this off. First part is, they are favored to win their division, the NFC South. So question number 1, do you think the Saints will win that division? And if not, where do you have them finishing? And number 2, their season win total number is set at 9.5. You going over or under?
I'm going under. I think they win 8-9 games. And the division winner's coming out of your backyard. The Atlanta Falcons win the division, and I have the Saints coming in second. But don't sleep. I know everyone thinks Tampa Bay could be one of the worst teams in the league, and everyone wants to make fun of their quarterback play that could be on there. But
you just made fun of their quarterback. You literally just made fun of them.
But I like the way their defense is going to be a lot healthier than it was last year, and so they can make some noise. I mean, let's face it, this is a horrible division. I think Carolina carries the cellar in last place in the division. So I have the Dirty Birds winning the division, which I said all yesterday during press row. I went to a Saints pressing meeting yesterday, and everyone wanted to kick my ass because I kept on saying the Dirty Birds were going to win the division. And shout out to Jake Hager, Fresno State third-string quarterback for the Saints, who laughed at me and said, "Well, you have a lot of cojones. Keep on saying that." So Jake, I just gave you a shout out. But yeah, I think it's Falcons, Saints, Bucks, and Panthers.
All right, everyone. He's Rafael Esparza. I'm Robert Ferringo. We are Doc Sports. Be sure to check back tomorrow for the next video of my countdown, which we might have another surprise guest. I'll give you a hint who he is. He's sitting right next to me. Carpe diem, and good luck.